This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
And welcome everyone, RTV Sports Rap back again. Pretty full crew here tonight. Spencer Byers, your host, alongside me, Mark McKelvey, Michael Harris, as well as JC Coots. Guys, big week of hockey. I wish Adrian was here, but of course now he's ducking me that the Oilers are down 2-1 in the NHL Finals because, as all of you saw when I was late on my birthday week due to being with my parents who flew in from BC, I was one of the panelists, and Adrian and I finally got into it for the first time this season of RTV Sports Rap, and we got into it about the playoffs, about Panthers versus Edmonton. I am the only panelist who took the Panthers, and right now, guys, I gotta feel pretty good with the Panthers up 2-1, a 6-1 win in Game 3 down in Florida, a line brawl as the third period continued, in a period that the Oilers almost fully wheels fell off that bus, Mark McKelvey. So I'll go to you first. What have been your feelings through the first 3 games of the NHL Stanley Cup Final?
Well, my feelings after, or at least watching Game 3, were not the same as Games 1 and 2. This is what I saw in Game 3 is exactly what we know the Florida Panthers are and why they're going for a back-to-back Stanley Cups and why they're in their 3rd straight Cup final. I thought Games 1 and 2, if you're Edmonton, boy, is this ever stinging now that you weren't able to get the job done in game number 2, because they probably needed anything they could coming out of that to be up 2-0, because the Panthers just wear you down. And I thought last night you talk about the shenanigans late in the 3rd period and Edmonton obviously becoming a little unraveled. I don't think that's any indication of that team just falling apart. I don't think Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl will let that group just fall apart. But you knew you weren't going to come back in that game. It was over. You're trying to send a bit of a message. The problem is Florida loves that stuff. Look at former attacker Jonah Gadjevich just eating it up and kind of becoming a household name as a 4th liner who's known more for dropping the gloves at the NHL level. So the Panthers, you can't beat them in the physicality, and you can't beat them on the scoreboard. How do you eventually beat them? I don't know, but Edmonton might have fired their best shots in Games 1 and 2. It's could be like last year, I guess, but man, Florida, they just continue to show us why they are the cream of the crop in the NHL.
That they do. I do want to mention the goaltending out of Edmonton, because I think that, again, is still a question mark, as Stuart Skinner allowed 5 of the 6. Pickard allowed that 6th when it wasn't some sort of empty netter. And obviously, Coach Knobloch has been non-committal on who he plans to start in Game 4 down in Florida. But I do want to mention, his combatant there, Mark McKelvey, is Jonah Gadjevich, was Darnell Nurse, who's a former Sioux Greyhound, who I saw as an Attack fan long before I was ever even going to be mentioned as a broadcaster on the Rogers TV team. So that was really interesting to see for me, getting a chance to see 2 guys that I think played against each other. If not, they were right around the same era. Got a chance to go at it in the NHL. I thought that was kind of cool, as well as I'll say, as a fan, getting to see 2 guys that I know that I watched in the O play in the NHL against each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, no less. Michael Harris. Now to you. You were one of the guys who picked Edmonton, down 2-1. What's the feeling going into Game 4?
Well, first of all, pick on what you said. Like, that is truly one of the awesome things about the Owen Sound Attack being in Owen Sound, is that regardless of who you're cheering for or watching, you turn on any NHL game at any time during the season and think, holy cow, I got to see that guy play either for Owen Sound or against Owen Sound. And I hope people don't take that for granted as fans of hockey. But I still feel okay about Edmonton. I said a while ago, if Edmonton wins, Calvin Pickard is their Conn Smythe winner. And who knows, he might have to come in and save the day again. I think that game just got started to get away from them. They couldn't bring it back. I fully expect in Game 4 that it's going to be another 1-goal game, back to the way Games 1 and 2 were. And Mark mentioned it, letting Game 2 get away now really possibly looks ominous. And I guess they charged back, tied it up, and then let it get away in overtime. But that hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them. But they're on the ropes, but I think Edmonton will respond.
Manny Pava has just joined us. I'll get a chance to go to you, Manny, next, but I'll go to JC first. JC, what are your feelings going into Game 4 down in Florida?
Well, it's a must-win for Edmonton. I think that's pretty clear based on where we're at. I mean, last year they went down 3 games to none and clawed their way back. I don't know if that's a situation the Oilers can necessarily get out of. The one thing that stood out for me in game three, well, a few things that stood out for me, but we knew that Stuart Skinner was due for a dump of a game. I mean, that's just, it's a roller coaster with him. He plays unbelievably well to the point where you think he's one of the best in the game. And then he'll have a game where he doesn't do so great. Game three was his not so great game. I mean, 3 goals on 11 shots. If I'm Chuck Knobloch, I'm probably pulling him after the third one went in. I'm a little bit surprised that they waited until the third period to finally put Pickard in the net and send that message. I mean, where is Pete DeBoer when you need to throw your goalie under the bus? Oh, right. Yeah, now I remember. But really, they should have been pulling him early, try to give the team a chance to win, because clearly it was not his night for game three. But that's okay. I mean, Edmonton, we've seen a lot of what they can do. The fact that at one point the game kind of resembled the movie Slapshot with all the fighting and the violence and the picking. I was amazed today that there were only 2 fines handed out, and they went to the same guy, to Wallman, who gets $5,000 for 2 incidents, one involving Matthew Tkachuk, the other involving the Florida bench. I thought there'd for sure be more fines. I don't think you're going to see suspensions in the Stanley Cup final unless it's something really, really bad. But NHL's got to do its thing and try to keep this game in line. I think the officials have to be a little bit better. The Oilers got themselves in a lot of trouble trying to play that physical game early. Evander Kane took way too many bad penalties. Like, he was at about a 15. They needed him at about an 8 in game three. So he's got to cool himself down a little bit. He can still play the role really, really well of trying to be as awkward as it is to say, almost like a Brad Marchand, where you're trying to get under the other team's skin. Marchand is very effective at it. Kane, not so much. So the Oilers, they're trying to play that game against Florida. Didn't work for them. It blew up in their faces in game three. But I would say game four for sure is a must win. You want to go back to Edmonton, back to your building, back to those fans, have this thing tied up at 2. Otherwise, you risk possibly losing it all again.
Well, JC, you kind of mentioned it there. Evander Kane was the guy barking on the Edmonton bench during that line brawl. They kept showing him on the broadcast that I saw on the replay. So obviously, as you mentioned it, he's one of the more pesty guys on the Edmonton Oilers team. Brad Marchand, as you mentioned, has been spectacular for Florida as a deadline pickup from my Boston Bruins. And I'll go to you, Manny Pava. What is your feeling going into game 4 between Edmonton and the Panthers? Panthers up 2-1.
Oh, great to be with you, Spencer. Glad to be called upon. I've been here since the beginning, and I know Michael, Mark, and JC are tremendous individuals. They should get top billing, but next time I'll bring a megaphone just so you know that I'm here from the start of the show. Secondly, great job picking Florida. I picked Florida as well. For all those Oilers fans who are thinking that it's all doom and gloom, it's one game. It's just one game. It doesn't matter if you lose 2-1 or 6-1. The fact that 14 of the first 20 minutes in the game on Monday night was spent on power play time for either team did not allow the Oilers to get into a groove. And I suspect that'll be a big difference as the series moves over. Agree with JC. No one's going to get suspended unless somebody Bertuzzi's somebody. But in the end, I think this is going to go 7 games. Even though we did see a blowout in game 3, it's going to go the distance. It's going to be one of the best Stanley Cup Finals of all time. I expect that the message from Chris Knobloch will be to stay out of the box for the Edmonton Oilers and to focus on 5-on-5 play, because I think that'll be a huge difference for the Oilers if they do want to make some noise. But Spencer, for once I agree with you. The Panthers are deep. They're a wagon. They're relatively healthy. I think the Oilers do miss Zach Hyman in this series for sure. And I think in the end, Florida will be victorious.
Well, Manny, where were you last week? I was the one who took all the heat last week. I was the one who had to stoke the flames of Adrian Musso because he decided that I was in the trolley tracks, if you will, because apparently I was the only one with a brain picking Florida over Edmonton. I'm happy to see somebody else finally got the brain put back in the monster and had a
Easy
chance to
now.
pick Florida.
Listen,
Well,
just because
hey,
we agree once, let's not
this
compare
is not once. It's
brains
like three
with each other.
times. I think it's been like three times. I think we've agreed maybe three times. I think three is a good number. Maybe 2.5. I'll give you
Okay,
2.5.
sure.
But with that, Manny, I will stick with you. So we didn't talk a lot about Stuart Skinner versus Calvin Pickard. Do you think Stuart Skinner is the game four starter, or do you think Knobloch goes to Skinner or goes to Pickard in game four?
I actually think they'll go back to Skinner. I think the Oilers will go back to Skinner. Um, After all, I thought, was outstanding in the Dallas series, outplayed Jake Ottinger, and then I thought performed very well in the first two games. I think in the grand scheme of things, especially at the Stanley Cup level, your goaltender can lose you a game, but in game three, I thought the Oilers were just so dysfunctional in front of their goaltender that you can't put it all on Stuart Skinner.
Michael Harris, are you a Skinner or are you a Pickard game four starter?
As much as it would add intrigue and whatever to throw Calvin Pickard back in there, I think it's Skinner. I think you have to, as a team, you know that when Skinner's at the top of his game, he's better. So you have to count on that. Like, it's not kind of time to hedge things and they go, oh, I think he's not playing. Like, you have to throw Skinner in there and just expect that he is the goalie that, as Manny said, outdo Jake Ottinger. So I don't know if it's a hope and a prayer at this point, but I think you have to stick with Skinner because your team has to be at its best to win this series, and it's at its best when Skinner is at his best. You've got to hope he is.
What about you, Mark McKelvey? Is it Stuart Skinner or Calvin Pickard's net in game four?
I'm honestly of the belief it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, Stuart Skinner goes down, Calvin Pickard stepped in, does all right. Then obviously he goes down, Skinner's back. You're not going to win the goaltending battle in this series anyways. I guess you can just hope that your goalie somehow steals you a game along the way, but you can't bank on that. So I don't really think it matters. It's going to be a case of Edmonton just need to outscore the Panthers.
What about you, JC? I'll count that as a Skinner 3-for-3 because non-committal I think means that Skinner
It doesn't
keeps
matter.
the net.
That's the category. It doesn't matter.
Oh, see, so you made your own like who you voting for? Pierre Poilievre in his own writing? You're picking your 91st candidate. Well, JC, I'll go to you. Are you Skinner in or are you Pickard in?
I think that I mean the first two games, neither goaltender really looked that great until they got to the later stage of the game and they figured out their game. Like Stuart Skinner in games 1 and 2 made some unbelievable saves after letting in a lot of goals. I think the message was received. He's been up and down through this whole thing, but we know he's already shown what he's capable of. He's kind of a streaky guy. He'll go on a winning streak, then he'll completely S the bed and have a terrible game. That was his terrible game. If he does not win game 4, if he comes out and it's a repeat performance of game 3, then it's Calvin Pickard's net for the elimination game. But as of right now, I think Stuart Skinner probably is going to make the corrections to the game that he needs to make. The Oilers obviously have gotten the message otherwise. They're going to make their corrections. So hopefully you're seeing a much different team all around, not just from the goaltending, but defense, forwards out. It's going to be a different effort in game 4.
Well, as we pivot from the NHL to the NBA, we'll also mention Lane Hutson was named Calder winner. So he is the best rookie of the season. I think all of us kind of had that feeling with how good he was in Montreal this year that he was going to be the Calder winner. I know Manny Pavon must be happy with that. I know Adrian Musso was pounding the table saying that Lane Hutson was going to be the Calder winner, and he is right. Only time he'll be right this NHL playoffs, though, because he'll be wrong about the NHL final. But I'll move into the NBA finals where the OKC Thunder and Indiana Pacers are tied 1-1. And since we recorded, Indiana shocks the Thunder in game 1, take game 1 down in OKC. OKC then gets the routine winning game 2, leading as the game went on the entire way through. Going into game 3, down in Indiana, JC, I guess, has your opinion changed on who the winner will be with the split in OKC?
Well, first of all, we've been complaining about the breaks in the NHL series. Oh, man, only 2 games played so far in this NBA series? What's going on there? Do they have a long distance to travel or something? But yeah, it was a shocker in game one. There's no question about that. Indiana played incredibly well. But then you saw what OKC could do in the next game. And I think the stat out of it was the fact that Indiana led the game for only about a minute 54. That's all they've had in this series. So OKC, you can tell that they are a monster team right now. And I don't know that this will necessarily be like the NHL final where it's got the potential of going 7 games. It looks a little more lopsided after everything that happened in game 2. But I would still say that the Thunder are probably your likely champions, maybe in 5, 6 if Indiana can somehow pull another miracle out.
Again, the NBA playoffs had a ton of teams come back from big lopsided score lines. The Knicks did it a couple times against the Celtics. The Knicks and Pacers did it against each other in the conference finals in the East. And then Indiana continues their magic in game 1. Don't have any magic in game 2. And I'll go to you there, Michael Harris. Do they have any magic going into game 3 and 4 down in Indiana?
No, I think what you see here is that Oklahoma City goes up 3-1. And then, so I guess it's winning both of the. We're going to have some home losses for the next 3 games. OKC is going to go up 3-1. Then they'll lose game 5 and win it in game 6. They'll kind of throw them a courtesy game in game 5. But I think this is Oklahoma City was shocked a little bit in game 1. They took the big lead and then they just kind of lost focus. And I think that was the shock. There's like, oh boy, okay, we can't mess around here. Like Indiana's a good team. There's no question about it. They've got really good players. But I think that Oklahoma City's better. So again, that shock of, basically in a say, like JC's got the stats of time led, but really in the end with that game, they led for 0.3 seconds of the game in a sense and won. So OKC's in control. I think they will be in control and win it in 6 in some fashion.
Manny Pava, NBA Finals, 1-1 through 2 games, going now to Indiana for game 3 and 4. What are your feelings going into game 3?
Actually, Spencer, I think we were right on this one too. I think we both called the Pacers and Thunder to meet in the final. So that's like 2 for 2. What's going on?
I said I think it's
this
3.
Is weird. This is so weird.
I think you and I have to agree that OKC wins it.
OKC is going to win it. Like, let's be honest here. Like, they're the better team. The Pacers caught magic in game 1 and made a game of it. I also want to give props to JC for essing the bed. I've never heard Spencer used as a verb in a sentence like that. So Spencering the bed, that's outstanding stuff, JC. I think he should win the debate on this show. That is fantastic stuff. But listen, in basketball, I think you go with the team with that has the best player. It's the Thunder. The best defense. It's the Thunder. Oklahoma City will win with ease. And Indiana's it's pretty loud in their stadium. I think their arena will be rocking for games 3 and 4. They may win 1. I'll give them credit for 1, but I think in the end, the Thunder win in 6 games.
Well, Manny, to that point, I saw a Big Ten coaches poll talking about what the loudest stadiums are in the Big Ten during the basketball season, and it was almost a clean sweep. Whoever the best team is in Indiana, if it's Purdue or the Hoosiers, they have the loudest stadium. And obviously right now it's the Boilermakers. So right now it's Purdue. So at Mackey Stadium. So I think that kind of plays into your point of Indiana loves its basketball. It may be a small market. It may be not seen as a New York, as an LA, as even the Boston Celtics, but they love their basketball and they are loud in Indiana. And that will be interesting to see how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and the OKC Thunder deal with that in game 3 and maybe even into game 4. Mark McKelvey, we'll now go to you. What are your feelings going into game 3 down in Indiana?
It's a lot of what you guys have talked about. It's amazing to think that, though, in game 1, I mean, as much as everyone has talked about how this Indiana team never down and out and they can find a way to come back, for OKC to actually let them to do it in game 1, I guess it's your whole live and learn. Like, it actually happened. but that's game one. OKC's got it figured out. I'm with you there, though. I think that's a tough place to play. And if there's such thing as home court advantage when you get to the finals, maybe there will be a bit there for the Pacers. So maybe they can get one more. But Manny put it, OKC's winning. There's no doubt about that.
Well, before we leave the NBA, there, Mark McKelvey, I think I have to ask you, they're planning a new All-Star format. It seems like every year, every league's got to change their All-Star format because no one wants to watch it because the games are not only meaningless, but boring because the athletes don't care. They're planning on doing a World versus the U.S. game now at the All-Star break. I know some of the athletes have asked for it. I know a lot of the European guys want it. Jokic, Giannis have been big proponents on it. I think Luka Doncic also said he'd like to play in that kind of format. Mark McKelvey, what do you think of the World versus U.S. format at the next All-Star game proposed?
I am skeptical that it'll work. Any sport that doesn't have where it's not contact in the sense of, your football or your hockey, and let's be real, football All-Star games, no one wants to get hurt.
They play flag now.
Well, yeah, we got flag now. That's what I mean. But that's what I mean. You can't even do a game because no one wants to get hurt in that sense. Hockey, we were having this conversation before the Four Nations of whether or not the guys would take it that serious. And I think the pride ended up shining through. That's the only way this works on the NBA side. And maybe those European guys, if they step out there and they just start kind of running the show and taking it to Team USA, and it maybe forces those guys to kind of check their egos and say, okay, it's not just an all-star game. We got to show up. Maybe that does it, but I'm skeptical until we see it and it shows that it works. No, it's going to be tough to get me to be a believer.
JC, do you like the World versus the U.S. in the proposed next NBA All-Star game?
Well, I mean, the NHL did it. They did the North America versus the World format, and I don't know how many of us remember that format that lasted for a few years, and it was okay. I don't think that it was much more, as Mark mentioned, contact or anything else than you would see in a regular All-Star format because nobody wants to get hurt. It is interesting to me, though, because the NBA very much is a global game. And anytime the Olympics are on and the U.S. sends their dream team, they often now are shocked by the quality of other countries and the game you see on the court. So if they do take it seriously, if they're really trying to win, then it could be a good game. It could be a good format. It's something new. It's definitely worth trying out because what the NBA currently has is hot garbage. It just doesn't work anymore. The best part of it is the slam dunk competition. That's not even the game itself. So trying something new, yeah, they definitely should try something different because the NHL seemed to have found some gold this year with that Four Nations Cup format.
Well, I will also mention that if you think about the best players right now in the NBA, Nikola Jokic, European, obviously, Victor Wembanyama, French. You've got Luka Doncic, Slovenian. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not an American, he's Canadian, so he'd probably play on the world team. So you have a bunch of guys, Giannis, Greece. So that's a bunch of guys who are up for MVP votes and have MVPs in their trophy cabinet that would be playing on the world team, not on the U.S. team. The U.S. team would be pretty old with Curry, LeBron leading the way there. Kevin Durant probably also making that team. Michael Harris, what do you think, World versus the U.S. for the next proposed NBA All-Star game?
Yeah, I'm going to build on the point that you made. And, of course, it's not going to be comparable to the Four Nations Cup because I think it's just still one game. It's not like you're playing Slovenia against the United States. So it's not a de facto world championship or national pride thing. It's it might be for the Americans, but I think the Americans have to be careful here because of exactly what you said, Spencer. And we know that in the States, they're having trouble in some areas of ratings with the NBA, things like this. And a lot of that has to do with exactly what you mentioned. The brightest stars in the NBA are not Americans anymore. LeBron, obviously, Steph, Kevin Durant, they take up a lot of oxygen, but they're not the best players anymore. When it's Luka Doncic every year and then Nikola Jokic actually every year, and now Shai, and you mentioned it, and Giannis. Hopefully we get Giannis up here as a Raptor. That'd be really something. I think the Americans got to be careful because this isn't it's not an Olympics where the Americans can squeak out a win against Spain, right? This is the Americans about the best against the best Spanish player. So if they care about it, I think the world team would really probably dominate the Americans. Maybe I'm too bullish, but I mean, like JC said, give it a try. What you're doing right now doesn't work, so it can't get worse. Give it a try, but I don't think it's a sustainable thing, really.
Manny Pava, you'll end us off here. Do you like the proposed new format of World versus the U.S. for the NBA All-Star Game?
I'm in agreement with some of the guys who think that, it can't be any worse than what they've put on the table. And kudos to JC yet again. He doubled down on essing the bed with throwing garbage on the bed as well. This is just amazing performance by JC in this debate show tonight. Outstanding. However, I do want to raise some issues here. So there are going to be a bunch of hurt feelings from basketball players who now won't get invited to the NBA All-Star Game. Because as much as you guys raised the point about some of the elite world basketball stars, you've named 5. And unfortunately, a basketball team consists of 12. So if you're going to pick 12 European or world players, shall we say, there's going to be a bunch of hurt egos from American players who won't get to the All-Star Game. Secondly, I think the Europeans or the world team will win that first year because the Americans won't care about it. Then the Americans will care about the second time around because people will make a big deal that the Americans lost to the Worlds. Third point here, what's the NBA doing? Like, why are they worried about fixing the All-Star Game when they've got bigger fish to fry in this league? It's now become a three-point shooting contest league, first and foremost. And secondly, they have guys resting on back-to-back nights in the NBA. That's a bigger deal for the game. If I shell out $500 to take my kid to an NBA game, and that's the cheap seats, Steph Curry, who plays in Golden State, is going to show up in Detroit once or twice a year, and he takes a night off, and my kid is a Steph Curry fan and won't get to watch him, and I forked over how much money? That's a bigger issue than what the NBA All-Star format looks like.
With only a couple minutes left, guys, I think that's a great point, Manny, about I'll say analytics kind of being the overarching thing, because baseball's having the same problem with, the amount of innings guys are pitching or playing because of analytics saying it's not right for them to play that many. That's when you're talking about the 3-point shooting in the NBA, it's all analytics, because I know from looking at it, a 3-pointer that's made 38% of the time is more valuable than a 2-pointer made at between 45 to 48. And that's just what the math says. So that's why every team's like, why take a deep 2, which is not a good shot, versus a 3, that's a lot better shot, even if you make it less. So that's why everybody plays the exact same, because all of them have the same analytics teams that say the exact same thing. They look at the exact same math, which is that shot is not worth shooting. Do not take that shot. Even when you have guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, I'd even include Shea in that are so good at shooting that mid-range shot, it's just not a good shot for about 90% of the league. So teams just don't take it. So the game's becoming more formulaic because of it. It's why I think hockey's probably gained the most from analytics, because it's so fluid. You can't do that. You can't just get away with doing stuff like, optimizing to the point of almost de-optimizing, if you will. But with that, I think I've talked us out of time. Spencer Byers, Michael Harris, Manny Pava, JC Coots, and Mark McKelvey. Of course, they're going to be behind the camera. We'll see you next week on RTV Sports Rap.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.
The opinion